Hello and welcome to the JacobsMassey channel. This is the first in a series of videos where we'll be taking you through the world of audio-visual, event planning, and so much more. And initially, we'd like to concentrate on the world of events. So whether you're a new event planner or a seasoned event planner, you might be able to pick up a few tips from today's video. My name's Del, I'm a freelance presenter, and I'm joined by Gabriel, the head of production at JacobsMassey. Hello, Gabriel.
Hi, nice to be here.
Great to have you with us. So Gabriel, I like to think of myself as a bit of a white glover when it comes to events. I'll be a presenter. I might turn up a couple of hours before. I go on stage, the lighting's set, the stage is set, the sound is wonderful. But the event actually starts way before that, right? So let's say I've been tasked with coming up with a snazzy event for 300 people in a central London venue. Where does it all begin? How can an agency like yours help me out from the conception, the start?
I think the main thing is when you start planning for an event is making sure that you actually do have a plan. So you need to consider each element before you actually even go to an agency. It's like, what kind of event is it that you're planning? You know, how many people are you expecting? What kind of venue do you want to do? Before you even get into the technical aspect, what is it that this event is trying to achieve? What's your message?
Sure.
And I think when you go to an agency who's going to help you in the technical aspects, or go to an expert who's going to be helping you out on some element of that event, then it's good to think about what you're trying to achieve.
Realize that sort of vision.
Exactly.
We've chatted before about having a plan. So in your opinion, having a rundown is really important, right?
Yeah, so I mean, when we're sort of planning something, we will put together an event plan. So it means that you'll have the duration of the event, you'll have the sort of logistical times, the times when things are going to get dropped off, you'll have the name of the event organizers on it, you'll have I don't know, things down to like Zoom links, or people taking part remotely might be needing that link. So once we have all that in one place, it helps us stay organized. So I definitely recommend that, that's the place to start. Put down all the different elements, and then once you see it in one place, you can then sort of like start to structure the things that you need to develop it.
So when organizing an event, Gabriel, obviously the budget is a major aspect of it, right? So in your opinion, what's the best way of managing a budget?
I mean, the budget is key, basically. The budget is going to be the parts of, you'll have to break down your budget into different elements for different elements of what the event is going to be.
So we're talking about the way the set looks, the lighting, the sound.
Yeah, the venue's a big one, the technical aspects, crew, who's going to come in and, bring all your equipment into the venue, things like that. So there's so many things to consider. So as part of that plan that we mentioned earlier, you'll need to do a sort of breakdown of budget so that you can sort of like think about each element. And
it's important to have the right people for the job, but the right number of people for the job as well, right? If you want to have a truly good looking event, an event that's to scale and the size you want it to be, you might want to think about things like showrunners, floor managers, maybe?
Absolutely, yeah. So I think you have people like show callers, floor managers. These are people who help with each element of your event happening to the run of show, to that schedule, make sure things happen on time when they should. And if you don't have these key people within your event, then it means that your event has more likely, it's a place to fall over and maybe not run as smoothly as it is. So I would always say to have the right amount of people on your event so it runs smoothly, and that does come into your budget.
Yeah, of course.
To make sure that you have a budget to cover those people.
So I've got my venue, I've got my budget. Now we're talking about sort of more of the aspects of the show or the event itself, right? So we mentioned that it might be an award ceremony, or it might be sort of a conference, or it might be a hybrid event. And actually the hybrid aspect now is a massive part of the live event space, probably since, I guess, the pandemic, right? So we've now got software that can help us bring people in from around the world. Gabriel and I worked on events where we've had speakers from Ukraine, from Palestine, from Israel. And so you can have people in the room interacting with people internationally in a way we'd never be able to do 20 years ago.
That's true. And actually technology's moved on so quickly that now you can afford to have these elements, and it sort of brings us into that issue of sustainability.
Sustainability, I guess, is part of the planning of events nowadays as well, right? That's something which is big in the world of events.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's definitely comes to the forefront. I mean, as not just in events, but in everything we do, we're kind of thinking, how can we do things, environmentally and sustainable. And when you're doing an event, it should be no different, and I think you can look at things like how is your waste management. You could make that part of your event plan.
Sure.
And you can say, how are we going to deal with the waste? Are we using carpet? I mean, even to the point of like, if you are going to print something with a backdrop, is it something you could use again on another event? Do you put in a date? You don't put the date of the event, something like that. What we tend to do on events is we use sustainable backdrops, which are built out of metal frames. They're on printed canvas that is then shredded and used again, recycled. And, it's just little elements like not using so much gaffer tape, not so much electrical tape, using matting instead of that cable ties that can be used.
Is it possible to pre-visualize my event on a computer like you see architects might do if they're sort of helping you plan a kitchen?
So that is one way of visualizing things. So I've talked about these sort of sustainable backdrops, things like that. And what we can do is we can use computer-aided design, like to visualize how that print is.
In 3D?
In 3D, yeah. So you could almost have a walk around. You can take pictures of it from different different angles and
views.
So you can visualize how it will look in the space.
And I can make tweaks then.
Yeah. So I would think, in terms of when you're planning for an event, that is something you can do before committing to the budget.
Sure.
So when we were talking about budget before, you can actually have a look at how something exists in a space. So what we do is we speak to the venue and we get the floor plans with the measurements.
Oh,
so then
it's that detail.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we can elevate the walls and we can sort of play with the lighting and we can sort of look at the way that the table plan works out.
Fantastic.
So, there's lots of computer programs out there that you can sort of work on a table plan. You can, work on, the way that it's going to visually look. So I would look into that for sure because it helps you visualize how it's going to look.
Now, something we need to touch on is the aspect of logistics, especially in central London where there's not a massive amount of space for people to park and get equipment in and all that sort of thing. What are your thoughts on logistics? Is it a minefield?
I mean, there's a lot to consider. There's things like the weight and size of your equipment, where they're being stored,
Right.
Are you got an extra room at the venue, things like that. So it's very good to sort of put down a list of all the things that you're going to think of in terms of your logistics. So what time does your venue allow you access?
Right.
What time does your event start? Do you need a setup day? So there's all these little things, and it's kind of like when you engage with an agency, they often shoulder that blow. They might put together a risk assessment for you, a method statement. And these are things that the venue are going to be requesting.
Now, so many times, Gabe, I'm sure it's the same for you. You'll turn up at an event and maybe there's not been time that's been factored in for rehearsing. And so it's sort of, it feels a bit run and gun. It feels like you just dive on the stage and you've just got to be on it straight away. What are your thoughts on the importance of rehearsing?
I think the value of rehearsal time and even a cue to cue, which is where you just go through each element of the...
so everyone's on the same page, right?
Exactly. So if it's your technical team going through with the event organisers of this happens there, that happens there, checking the content, make sure that's happened. And then when you're actually at the venue, then you have like a dress rehearsal where you have the stage, everything's made up, and then your different people can come on and just try their bit.
Yeah.
And I can't stress enough how valuable that is to running smoothly.
Well,
everybody knows where they're going to go, the stage direction, it's all pre-planned.
It's so important from sort of an audio side. So if you've got different speakers, the audio engineer will know how loud certain people are talking. If you've got walk-up music or sound effects, stings that you want people to be playing at a certain time.
Even if you're not sort of like reading from a script or doing it that way, it's good to go through each stage of the event before it happens.
Yeah, so everybody knows what's happening, when it should be happening. Yeah. So let's say I need to see a British Sign Language interpreter, I need subtitles or translators. Is that can be done as part of the scope of the event?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think accessibility is becoming quite a priority now. I mean, like everybody needs to experience this event that you're putting on. So you need to think about who is going to be engaging with it. And I think things like captioning, live captioning, if it's a live event, or adding subtitles to your produced video content, or even sign language, and there's lots of different elements to make your event more accessible.
Something from my perspective, working on events, the induction loop, so people being able to hear the speakers clearly, that's a massive thing as well, isn't it?
Yeah, it's huge. And it's just being able to make sure that you're not rejecting anybody from being able to come enjoy your event.
Yeah.
So I think there's lots of different types of technology there's lots of ways of making it more accessible to people to come.
And it's not just the physical accessibility of having wheelchair ramps, making sure people can get into your venue, which is incredibly important, but it's also things like having translators on a hybrid call. So if you've got international speakers, then you can bring them into the fold. I think you've worked on those kind of events yourself.
Yeah, definitely. So now you can sort of, before the pandemic, before things like the video conferencing software, all that sort of stuff really took shape in the world as it is now. We would use like translation booths, and it'll be much more physical, like people at the venue. But now, through these platforms, we can now dial in translators.
Or have them online as well.
Yeah, exactly. So we have them dialing in, they can do the translations, and then it can be a bit more fluid in that respect.
Oh, thanks a lot for that, Gabe. We've covered a lot today in terms of events. We've covered the planning, budget, sustainability, visualization, logistics, rehearsals, and accessibility. That seems like it could be a bit overwhelming.
It's a lot to think about, but I think the main thing is to be able to break it down in smaller parts, and also to shoulder on a production agency, someone who can help you with the planning, and just spare the load.
Yeah, so it's that idea of the event production agency maybe being an extension of your own team.
Exactly that, yeah.
Brilliant stuff. Now, we hope you've enjoyed today's episode here on the JacobsMassey channel. Lots more content to come, where we'll be doing some more deep dives into the technical aspects of event production. But we're also going to hear from suppliers and vendors as well. And to that end, we'd love to hear from you. If you'd like to appear on the JacobsMassey channel, if you've got something to say about the world of event production, then get in touch with us at the address on screen right now. Until next time, though, we say goodbye for now.